I'm going to explain to you how I find, scout, and hunt on flat public land. Flat land can be really overwhelming at times. Sometimes you go out there and you feel hopeless, and I think I can help with that in this video. So what I do is I look for 3 specific terrain features on flat public land. Terrain feature number 1 is making sure that you can find a clear, hard edge. I've said this in so many of my videos before, but deer are creatures of edge. If you're walking through the middle of a woodlot, some coniferous forest, you're not going to find hard edge most of the time. There are a few examples of edge that I can provide for you right now. A really good example is a woodlot going up to an ag field. 2 completely different terrains. It's a very clear edge. Those are obvious to find. Another example would be a marsh or a swamp butting up to a nice thick high stem count area. That's a really obvious place as well. You're going to see a lot of deer trails and tracks going in those areas as well. Another example of a hard edge could be a clear cut next to a marsh or next to a woodlot. So the woodlot hasn't been cut yet, but the clear cut has a couple years ago, so it's high stem count. That's going to create a really hard edge. It's also going to add habitat diversity as well. And then another one that a lot of people don't think of is a creek just running through the woods. Obviously that creates a hard edge because a creek is one thing, the woods is another thing, and that creates a hard edge right there. Now edges don't need to be straight necessarily. Oftentimes they're not in nature anyway, but what you need to find is that clear edge and hunt on the thick side of that clear edge that you're hunting. Okay, really quick, before I share with you terrain feature number 2 on flat public land, I need to tell you something. I was looking at my YouTube analytics the other day and it appeared that 70 to 80% of you, could be you, maybe not, I don't know, but 70 to 80% of my viewers of this channel are not subscribed to the channel. So I'm going to ask you to please subscribe if you're a person who watches my weekly videos that come out every Wednesday. If my content adds value to your life, I'd really appreciate your support. Not only are you supporting me by viewing my videos, thank you for doing that by the way. So by you subscribing to my channel and liking my videos, it just simply tells YouTube to share my videos with other people. So if you just did that, thank you. Let's proceed. The second feature I look for when scouting and trying to find deer on public land that's flat is habitat diversity. A diverse terrain simply means that you have more than one type of terrain in the area. You want a diverse habitat. To look for that when you e-scout, look for the different colors on the map, look for the different elevation changes as well, because with elevation change you're going to have different types of things growing at different elevations. Examples of this could be woodlot, which I normally would not recommend you hunt in, but it has a very thick understory. There's a lot of younger, high stem count type of trees and bushes growing underneath the woodlot, or the mature trees, I guess you could call it. That's diverse. You could have a creek running through the woods with a really high stem count edge. That's diverse because what that does is it offers a lot of browse, it offers a lot of bedding as well. Not to mention it's going to offer mature trees as well once you get further in, but there's a lot of habitat diversity in there. You can have wetlands meeting dry land or higher ground. You can look for trees and bushes that are all different from each other. In my experience, wherever I happen to find diversity in habitat, I find deer sign as well. It's just how it works. So when scouting flatland, the third feature I look for, and this is often overlooked by a lot of people because the land is flat, but I look for elevation change. When you're looking at onX and you're e-scouting, or you're actually on the property with boots on the ground and you're overlooking this flat land, this terrain, and you're thinking, where do I even start? Well, start with the elevation change. That's a really good idea. I would start with the highest elevation or the lowest elevation. Sometimes it's really difficult on flat land to see elevation change, but if it's even a couple of feet, that's all it takes to hold and bed some deer. So look at the topo maps before you go out, look for the highest elevation on the property, look for the lowest elevation on the property, and start scouting there. In my experience, one of the ways that I've found to be more efficient when scouting, finding deer, and hunting deer is just eliminating tons of land. Let's say that there's a piece of public land that's 1,000 acres you're looking for. Just imagine a square, it's 1,000 acres. I would eliminate almost 80% of that immediately just by e-scouting. There's reasons why I would eliminate that. Reason 1 is too close or too easy of an access to other hunters. Where do you think the hunters are going to be? If you think there's any chance of a hunter being somewhere, cross that out. Reason number 2 is because I don't see a hard edge. Habitat diversity or elevation changes at all. If you don't see any elevation change at all, habitat diversity to that hard edge, eliminate that area as well. Chances are it's the same type of tree over and over and over, just thousands of them going on for acres and acres, and that's not going to hold deer consistently. Please try not to be intimidated by flat land on public land. I save a lot of time by doing what I just shared with you, by only going to those certain features. And if there's no sign there, which there usually almost always is some sign, but let's say there's not or not enough to hunt, I move on. Sometimes we have this idea that we really want to hunt this property because maybe it's 5 minutes away from where we live or whatever, and we're comfortable with it, or years ago we saw a lot of deer there. But I think it's really important as deer hunters to have short memories and only hunt fresh sign that happens to be there in the moment. Ever since I started using this idea of looking for elevation change with diverse habitat and a clear edge, I started seeing a lot of deer when I hunt. I started seeing a lot of deer sign, and it really increased my confidence, and I think it's going to help you as well if that's something you struggle with on public land that happens to be flat. And now, many years later, I am way more confident hunting on flat land that appears to be featureless and boring and all the same, which really it's not if you break it down like I just explained. So we often think of hill country deer hunting and flatland, marshy, that kind of thing. And really, in my opinion, hunting flatland is much easier to A, locate deer, and B, to actually set up and hunt deer for several reasons. Reason number one, deer really can't see you coming most of the time on flat land. They might smell you, they might hear you, but as far as visual, you have an advantage there because everything is thick for the most part on flat land. A lot of times in hill country, if they're bedded 2/3 up the hill on the leeward side, which they often are, they can see you. They've got that advantage looking down on you, and that actually makes it more difficult sometimes for your access in hill country. Not to mention in hill country, a lot of time, those wind swirls are crazy. There's times you're hunting and there's a really strong north wind, but it bounces off the hill behind you and goes back the other way, then it swirls this way and goes over there. Thermals may be a little bit easier to understand and to deal with, but in hill country, wind, that can be difficult sometimes, and I just think that's another disadvantage hill country has for you. I know a lot of people want to hunt in the hills because it's usually dry and they can see a little bit further and whatever, but if you can find good flat land, maybe it's the edge of a marsh, maybe it's an island point or something way out in the middle of a marsh, I don't know. I really think that that actually holds more deer than hill country, and I really think if you do the three things that I explained to you before and go about it by eliminating tons of public land property and just focusing on that 10 to 20% I shared with you, I really think you're going to have some luck this season and next season. I really believe that. Click this video right here. It's the #1 way to see more deer in general, and you're going to see them real fast if you do this, I promise. Make sure you subscribe over here. I hope my videos are helpful to you because your viewership, your subscription, and you liking this video is really helpful for me. Thanks a lot. I'll see you later.